Hi everybody, this is Miss Brazil and I'm going to be reading to you chapter 6 of Artemis Fowl for 15 minutes on this video, and then I'm sure I'll have to continue with another video later on. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late posting it this week. It's been crazy. Anyway, so just as a reminder, the last time we saw Artemis, he had caused an explosion on a whaling ship, and a whaler ship, of course, is a ship that is its mission is to capture and kill whales to use their bodies to create different products. They use the blubber, basically. And then we also had Holly, the fairy, is being held captive, and they are trying to rescue her. And we know that Artemis is trying to gain the knowledge of the fairy world in an effort to save his father or to locate his father, and that his mother is currently bedridden, basically with mental health problems that happened because his father went missing. She just kind of broke. She couldn't take it. So your job during this is just to follow along and enjoy. It's just a reading activity, and as I said before last week, if you're not enjoying Artemis Fowl, go ahead and switch to another book. Read something else. Listen to it being read to you as you're following along. There are plenty of them on YouTube. You can use other audio services as well, or you can have a parent read to you while you follow along. All I care about is I want you guys reading during this time. I wish we could do more than that, but it's just kind of the way it goes. I know you guys need to focus on Summit. Anyway, you're following along. I'm going to read to you. Here we go. Artemis leaned back in the study's leather swivel chair, smiling over steepled fingers. Perfect. That little explosion should cure those fairies of their cavalier attitude. Plus, there was one less whaler in the world. Artemis Fowl did not like whalers. There were less objectionable ways to produce oil byproducts. The pinhole camera concealed in the locator had worked perfectly. With its high-resolution images, he had picked out the fairies' telltale breath crystals. Artemis consulted the basement surveillance monitor. His captive was sitting on the cot now, head in hands. Artemis frowned. He hadn't expected the fairy to appear so human. Until now, they had been merely quarry, animals to be hunted. But now, seeing one like this in obvious discomfort, it changed things. Artemis put the computer to sleep and crossed to the main doors. Time for a little chat with their guest. Just as his fingers alighted on the brass handles, the door flew open before him. Juliet appeared in the doorway, cheeks flushed from haste. Artemis, she gasped. Your mother, she... Artemis felt a lead ball drop in his stomach. Yes? Well, she says, Artemis, that you're... Yes, Juliet, for heaven's sake, what is it? Juliet placed both hands over her mouth, composing herself. After several seconds, she parted spangled nails, speaking through her fingers. It's your father, sir. Artemis Sr. Madame Fowl says he's come back. For a split second, Artemis could have sworn his heart had stopped. Father? Back? Was it possible? Of course he'd always believed his father was alive, but lately, since he'd hatched this fairy scheme, it was almost as if his father had shifted to the back of his mind. Artemis felt guilt churn his stomach. He had given up on his own father. Did you see him, Juliet, with your own eyes? The girl shook her head. No, Artemis, sir, I just heard voices, in the bedroom, but she won't let me through the door, not for anything, not even with a hot drink. Artemis calculated. They had returned barely an hour since. His father could have slipped past Juliet. It was possible. Just possible. He glanced at his watch, synchronized with Greenwich Mean Time by constantly updated radio signals. 3 a.m. Time was ticking on. His entire plan depended on the fairies making their next move before daylight. Artemis started. He was doing it again, pushing family to one side. What was he becoming? His father was the priority here, not some money-making scheme. Juliet was still in the doorway, watching him with those enormous blue eyes. She was waiting for him to make a decision, as he always did. And for once, there was indecision scrawled across his pale features. "Very well," he mumbled eventually. "I had better go up there immediately." Artemis brushed past the girl, taking the steps two at a time. His mother's room was 2 flights up, a converted attic space. He hesitated at the door. What would he say if it was his father miraculously returned? What would he do? It was ridiculous dithering about it, impossible to predict. He knocked lightly. "Mother?" No response, but he thought he heard a giggle and was instantly transported to the past. Initially, this room had been his parents' lounge. They would sit on the chase lounge for hours, tittering like schoolchildren, feeding the pigeons or watching the ships sailing past on Dublin Sound. When Artemis Sr. had disappeared, Angeline Fowl had become more and more attached to the space, eventually refusing to leave altogether. "Mother, are you all right?" Muffled voices from within. Conspiratorial whispers. "Mother, I'm coming in." "Wait a minute. Timmy, stop it, you beast. We have company." Timmy? Artemis's heart thumped like a snare drum in his chest. Timmy, her pet name for his father. Timmy and Artie, the 2 men in her life. He could wait no longer. Artemis burst through the double doors. His first impression was light. Mother had the lamps on. A good sign, surely. Artemis knew where his mother would be. He knew exactly where to look, but he couldn't. What if... Yes, can we help you? Artemis turned, his eyes still downcast. "It's me." His mother laughed, airy and carefree. "I can see it's you, Papa. Can't you even give your boy one night off? It is our honeymoon, after all." Artemis knew then. It was just an escalation of her madness. Papa? Angeline thought Artemis was his own grandfather, dead for over 10 years. He raised his gaze slowly. His mother was seated on the chase lounge, resplendent in her own wedding dress, face clumsily coated with makeup. But that wasn't the worst of it. Beside her was a facsimile of his father, constructed from the morning suit he'd worn on that glorious day in Christchurch Cathedral 14 years ago. The clothes were padded with tissue, and atop the dress shirt was a stuffed pillowcase with lipstick features. It was almost funny. Artemis choked back a sob, his hopes vanishing like a summer rainbow. "What do you say, Papa?" said Angeline in a deep bass, nodding the pillow like a ventriloquist manipulating her dummy. "One night off for your boy, eh?" Artemis nodded. What else could he do? "One night, then. Take tomorrow, too. Be happy." Angeline's face radiated honest joy. She sprang from the couch, embracing her unrecognized son. "Thank you, Papa. Thank you." Artemis returned the embrace, though it felt like cheating. "You're welcome, Mo Angeline. Now I must be off. Business to attend to." His mother settled beside her imitation husband. "Yes, Papa, you go. Don't worry. We can keep ourselves amused." Artemis left. He didn't look back. There were things to be done, fairies to be extorted. He had no time for his mother's fantasy world. Captain Holly Short was holding her head in her hands. One hand, to be precise. The other was scrabbling down the side of her boot, on the camera's blind side. In actuality, her head was crystal clear, but it would do no harm for the enemy to believe her still out of action. Perhaps they would underestimate her, and that would be the last mistake they ever made. Holly's fingers closed around the object that had been digging into her ankle. She knew immediately by its contours what was concealed there. The acorn. It must have slipped into her boot during all the commotion by the oak. This could be a vital development. All she needed was a small patch of earth. Then her powers would be restored. Holly glanced surreptitiously around the cell. Fresh concrete by the looks of it, not a single crack or flaky corner. Nowhere to bury her secret weapon. Holly stood tentatively, trying out her legs for stability. Not too bad, a bit shaky around the knees, but otherwise sound enough. She crossed to the wall, pressing her cheek and palms to the smooth surface. The concrete was fresh all right, very recent, still damp in patches. Obviously, her prison had been specially prepared. "Looking for something?" said a voice. A cold, heartless voice. Holly reared back from the wall. The human boy was standing not 2 meters from her, his eyes hidden behind mirrored glasses. He had entered the room without a sound. Extraordinary. "Sit, please." Holly did not want to sit, please. What she wanted to do was to incapacitate this insolent pup with her elbow and use his miserable hide for leverage. Artemis could see it in her eyes. It amused him. "Getting ideas, are we, Captain Short?" Holly bared her teeth. It was answer enough. "We are both fully aware of the rules here, Captain. This is my house. You must abide by my wishes. Your laws, not mine. Obviously, my wishes do not include bodily harm to myself, or you attempting to leave this house." It hit Holly then. "How do you know your name? Your rank?" Artemis smiled, though there was no joy in it. "If you will wear a name tag." Holly's hand unconsciously covered the silver tag on her suit. "But that's written in—" "Gnomish. I know, I happen to be fluent, as is everyone in my network." Holly was silent for a moment, processing this momentous revelation. "Fowl," she said with feeling, "you have no idea what you've done. Bringing the worlds together like this could mean disaster for us all." Artemis shrugged. "I am not concerned with us all, just myself, and believe me, I shall be perfectly fine. Now sit, please." Holly sat, never taking her hazel eyes from the diminutive monster before her. "So, what is this master plan, Fowl? Let me guess. World domination?" "Nothing so melodramatic," chuckled Artemis. "Just riches." "A thief," spat Holly. "You're just a thief." Annoyance flashed across Artemis's features, only to be replaced by his customary sardonic grin. "Yes, a thief if you like. Hardly just a thief, though. The world's first cross-species thief." Captain Short snorted. "First cross-species thief? Mud people have been stealing from us for millennia. Why do you think we live underground?" "True, true. But I will be first to successfully separate a fairy from its gold." "Gold? Gold? Human idiot! You don't honestly believe that crock of gold nonsense? Some things aren't true, you know." Holly threw her head back and laughed. Artemis checked his nails patiently, waiting for her to finish. When the gales had finally subsided, he shook his index finger. "You are right to laugh, Captain Short. For a while there I did believe in all that under-the-rainbow crock of gold blarney, but now I know better. Now I know about the hostage fund." Holly struggled to keep her face under control. "What hostage fund?" "Oh, come now, Captain. Why bother with the charade? You told me about it yourself." I I told you," stammered Holly. "Ridiculous." "Look at your arm." Holly rolled up her right sleeve. There was a small cotton pad taped to the vein. "That's where we administered the sodium pentanol, commonly known as truth serum." You sang like a bird. Holly knew it was true. How else would he know? "You're mad." I'm going to stop right there. Just because I'm almost out of time, I only get 15 minutes. I'll continue with the second video, so just go ahead and click on that. See you in a minute.